This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
Super Sid, good morning. Thanks for some time this morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're great and happy to have you on. Sidney, I think when people think of you, not just the accolades on the court, but like picture, visual references, they think about that dunk on Sports Illustrated against Texas. What can you tell us about how important that rivalry was? Because we think football a lot of times, but what about the basketball portion of Arkansas and Texas?
Yeah. Football, of course, was it. We know that. I grew up watching the Arkansas-Texas basketball rivalry, and then football rivalry, and then basketball came on the scene where we started Razorback. We started to have pretty good teams, and then guess what? Texas said we're going to follow suit. We're going to match these guys. We always dominate Arkansas, so we're going to dominate them in football and basketball, and so They put together a really good team, very competitive team. And from that point on, at least for my 4 years, it became probably the best rivalry in the Southwest Conference in basketball. You had Arkansas, Texas, and then, of course, you had Arkansas, Houston, who also had a great team.
Yeah, those were some great games back in the day. I wonder, when you look at Arkansas's basketball program now, John Calipari, Hall of Famer coaching the sport like yourself, and you look at Bud Walton Arena, one of the meccas in college basketball. When you come back and visit, and then you think back to your playing days, when you walked into Barnhill Arena, there was sawdust on the floor. Arkansas's basketball was not necessarily known as a powerhouse prior to you and a couple of your teammates stepping foot on campus. Just kind of give us some perspective on how much things have changed for 40-plus years ago.
Yeah, it used to be, as you know, football, which is still the dominant sport. Let's not get it twisted. Football will probably be the king at some point again. But now, with basketball being such a high-profile sport in Arkansas, and when I came, people don't realize that there were good teams at Arkansas before we got there, with Martin Terry and Dean Tolson, those guys. They had competitive basketball. I used to listen. You're old when you say, I just didn't watch it, but I used to listen to them and play basketball when that group, Lanny Van Even, was up there, and I listened to them play basketball. But when we came, we changed the narrative because we actually had three of the better players from the state of Arkansas. I think that's really what makes that era so special. Not that we didn't have players from outside of the state, but Jimmy Count, Steve Shaw, two critical players for that team, but most of our players were Arkansas-grown players that could play, and they were at some point the best players in the state at that time. And we just continued with Coach Sutton and Pat Foster, Gene Cady, we just kept grinding and just getting better and just gaining more confidence. And I think the Final Four, certainly in St. Louis, started putting Arkansas basketball on the map as a national powerhouse. And then when I left, they just continued with that Joe Klein, Darrell Walker, Alvin Robinson team, Charles Valentine, and they just kept getting better and better. And then Nolan took over, had a little slump, and then they picked it back up with Nolan when they won the championship. So it's just continued to grow the arena. Of course, nothing like Barnhill. People can say it's nothing like Barnhill, and I'm not being biased, but I'm watching games in Bud Walton, unless you're playing a really good team, it doesn't have the same feel to me. Where Barnhill, it didn't matter who we were playing. It didn't matter when you were playing. It could be in November, right? And it was still rocking and rolling. So it's changed. And now people want to come to Arkansas. And that's a big difference. Players want to come there.
Sidney Moncrief with us here on the Morning Rush. I want to circle back to something you said there and the opportunity to play with two other great players from in the state and, with Marvin and Ron. The program wasn't established the way it is today. It hadn't been to the Final Fours the way you guys led it. What was the leap, the actual leap of faith for you to say, Arkansas is where I want to go? What was that convincing moment, all those years ago?
Well, for me, I was from Arkansas, and I saw how people view people from Arkansas. You know, I tell the story. I remember I went to California one time, and I think I was a ninth grader going into the 8th or 9th grade. I'm hanging out in San Diego with some guys that didn't really know me very well, and they said, "Hey, where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm from Arkansas." And they said, "Well, you can't be from Arkansas." I said, "Why not?" They said, "Because you have on shoes. They don't wear shoes in Arkansas." You know, so you hear just a little bit of that, and it gives you that pride to want to do something to improve how people viewed your state. That was really my driving force. Coach Sutton, Coach Foster, Coach Katie, great coaching staff, good players, but I wanted to represent the state of Arkansas in such a way that it would bring national acclaim to the state.
Yeah. You know, I think about in your days that the characters, Coach Sutton, Abe Lemons, you know, you fast forward, you had Rick Pitino and Nolan Richardson, and now Arkansas's got one of those characters in John Calipari that everyone focuses on. You need those ripples and those storylines to really take it to the next level. What's your thoughts and what went through your head when it was announced that John Calipari is going to be the head coach at Arkansas, and what do you expect for the future with this program?
Well, I don't know. I know everybody, John Calipari is a legend. He's a great coach. But at the end of the day, players win games, not coaches. So as long as he gets the players he'll get players that know how to play. We know that. The question will be, can they put it together in a short period of time to compete for a national title? Because now with NIL and the transfer portal, I don't think you're going to have a lot of players staying around for 2 years. So the one and done concept is real, not just one and done going to the NBA, but one and done going to another school. It's a reality. So now you take this great roster. I never ever get hyped about who Arkansas finds. Never. I like to see guys play. I like to just see how they play that first 5 or 6 games. See if there's any potential for them to get better, because recruitment doesn't win championships. It's a start of winning a championship. But can those players play together? We know we have a leader that can get it done in a lot of different ways. So I'm still in the wait and see stage.
And Sidney, I wonder if you could, and we're talking with Razorback royalty, Sidney Moncrief, by the way, this morning, Hall of Famer as well. It's several eras between now and then. I know your coach is now gone, but do you see any similarities between Coach Sutton and Coach Cal?
I don't know. I hadn't played for Coach Cal. I'm just watching when he coached at Kentucky. I don't think I do, but I'm not sure because I don't know him that well as a coach. I know his reputation as a coach. We know what he was able to put together at Kentucky. But Coach Sutton he was a little fundamentalist as far as basketball and how you play the game of basketball. I think one similarity is they care about their players, and that's what I like to see with college coaches.
Yeah. Well, with Coach Sutton,
do they care about those guys that they're coaching? Will those guys call their coach 5 to 10 years after they finish playing to check on them? And I think with Coach Calipari, that's definitely a big yes. And Coach Sutton, it was a yes also.
Yeah. And with Coach Sutton, if you weren't going to play defense, you were going to be over there sitting with him. I mean, that was kind of a similarity that him and Muss shared in Coach Musselman's time here. He was a defensive first coach. What were those practices like? We've heard from some of your counterparts in those days that played for him, and Joe Klein's got some great stories. He was a tough-nosed, defensive-minded basketball coach.
Yeah, we coached 3 hours, 3.5 hours. We practiced 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and probably defense of the 3 hours, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Although you were still doing transition offense, defensive drills. We had I think he built his players to withstand extreme pressure as it relates to conditioning and physical play, contact, very punishing practices that made us better, made us tougher. And although he was a defensive-minded coach, he understood offense. And if nobody really cares to do this, I remember when Nolan took over the team, and Nolan's pace was fast. But people don't realize when I played at Arkansas, if you go back and look at some of our scores without a three-point line, you didn't see a lot of 45 to 50 games. You see those here and there, but we were scoring 70 points, sometimes 80 points without a three-point line. So we did play a fast pace. He believed in taking your shot when you're open. And for Marvin and Ron, sometimes that was early in the shot clock. The ball was going up. But defensively is where we were good also.
Sidney, I wonder if you could shed some light on some Hall of Famers that recently passed away, starting with Bill Walton, a guy you competed against. What did you maybe take away, not just from him on the court back in the NBA days, but maybe what you saw him post-playing career?
Okay, well, I didn't play against Bill. Don't make me that old, guys. Not there yet. But but I grew up watching Bill Walton play pretty much. And I think the only time we played Boston in the playoffs, and he was on that team, but he was at the very tail end of his career. Mm-hmm. But what a talent. Always is overlooked when they talk about the greatest centers in the history of the game. He could pass, he could dribble, he could obviously shoot the basketball, good free throw shooter. Defensively, he can block shots, he can run the lane. He could do everything as a basketball player. I really admired him. I admired him so much as a basketball player and as a person, just sincere, always had a positive attitude. When you would see him, hey, Sidney, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You know, he had that positive spirit about him, and he was a special player.
And then the other one being Jerry West. And Sidney, I got to know, I love the show Winning Time on HBO. And in the show, and I know it's not an actual portrayal at everything, but he wanted to draft you in the show. Was that a conversation did you talk with the Lakers prior to getting drafted by the Bucks, or was that just a figment?
No, we never had a conversation. I know my agent said that they had kicked that around, but It was obvious. Even before the draft, Magic was their player. When you have draft discussions, a lot of players' names will come up. That's just how they vet and making sure that they're prepared if something happened that they can't anticipate. So I'm sure my name came up, but they did not speak to me about playing for the Lakers. They didn't say, we might draft you. I think they said it's a possibility that we might draft you. But it's a low possibility when you got Magic available, very low.
Well, Sidney, before we let you go, you mentioned Coach Sutton caring for his players, Coach Cal caring for his. You also care about a lot of kids in the basketball side of things, and you've got camps coming up, and you've got an awesome platform to share it with you right now. Kind of tell our audience about some of the camps that you've got coming up in this next week or so.
I do mostly people development. I don't do basketball camps. I do entrepreneurship camps for adults. I do entrepreneurship forum. I train develop as many adults as I do young people. And a lot of times we have that twisted. We think youth need support, but adults need as much support as young people. They need career support. They need team enhancement support, leadership support, career readiness support. So we do adults and we do young people. But I have one basketball camp that I still do, and that's in Vail, Colorado. And who would not want to do a basketball camp in Vail? But otherwise, I have my entrepreneurship summer initiatives. I just had one last week in Little Rock, had one week or two ago in Northwest Arkansas. I need to have one in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Let's do it.
I have one in Hot Springs. I know I have one in Hot Springs coming up week after next, and then I have Milwaukee coming up the last week of July. And we want to put Fort Smith on our schedule so guys start talking about it. Look for ways to bring us up for our entrepreneurship camp. There's enough basketball camps out there, but we do entrepreneurship.
Of all the Ty brought up the magazine cover, the Sports Illustrated, maybe the most famous Razorback photo out there. Any wild guess on how many of those you've probably autographed in your life?
Oh, I still autograph them. Think about that. I still autograph not a replica, but the actual cover. I've had people come up to me in autograph signings. They used to send them to me in the mail, but I don't sign through the mail any longer. And they would have a SI cover, and it was like it was new. They had kept it in pristine condition. It just blows me away. And I can't even, if you ask me right now, guys, can you put your hands on that magazine in your household? It would be no.
Really? Really?
Wow.
How's that possible?
Yeah, I don't know. You move a lot, and basketball things don't mean. It still means a lot, but it's not like I don't. If you walk in my house, I have very few basketball things that you'll see.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.